Hey guys, I heard you talking about those books. Something you can consider doing while you're reading the book or when you're done. Write a book report about why you read the book, how it will help you after prison. It's good. What? One more time? How long have I been in prison? I've been here for about a month. It's been kind of an interesting journey so far. Huh? I don't think did you ask for my advice on books you're reading? You didn't ask, but I just figured, When you want my advice, you'll ask for it. I totally understand. And there you have it. The number 10 thing that Tina Peters must absolutely do during her 9-year journey in prison is avoid offering unsolicited advice. It's intrusive. The last thing that a long-term prisoner wants to hear is someone who's been there for 5 days or 4 weeks offering advice. There's this great quote from Ayn Rand that my business partner, Michael Santos, who did 26 years in prison, Michael shared this quote with me. Rand wrote, "It is not advisable to venture unsolicited opinions. You should spare yourself the embarrassing discovery of their exact value to your listener." If you're going to prison, I want you to memorize that quote. Before I get to number 9 on this top 10 list, I want to address so many of the comments, thousands of comments that have come in, including 9 years isn't long enough. I don't care how much I don't care how much in taxes I got to pay. I need this woman warehoused for as long as possible. She's a menace. More punishment, please. 9 years isn't long enough. I'm going to scroll through some of these comments. It's part of the reason I'm not doing this live, because I want you to see the comments. And some of the comments include, "Justin, man, I like your channel. You do some good stuff, man. Why? Tell me why, man. Don't make me unsubscribe. Why are you offering advice to someone like Tina Peters?" And to answer that question, you need to understand that before I went to federal prison in 2008 for 18 months for a white-collar crime, I didn't accept responsibility. I blamed, I excused. It wasn't my fault. And finally, when I got to federal prison, standing for count, separated from my family, I recognized that I alone was to blame for my troubles. And I began to learn from people like Michael Santos, doing 26 years, and other people who I never expected to learn from, who had been in and out of prison, no formal education, never had a law-abiding job, 80 or 90% of their body tattooed. People I never thought I would learn from helped change my life. And I share this because if I can do it from the wrong side of prison boundaries, can't Tina Peters? I think so. And I know not all of you agree, but either way, I'm grateful that you're here. And please like, subscribe, and comment if you're finding value in this content. For her to succeed, she's going to have to embrace this subject or topic I learned about in this great book called Think Again. And in this book, he describes the concept of intellectual humility. You got to question your beliefs. You got to recognize there's a better way, that you can learn from others. And if Tina Peters can do that, she will be successful. But it also requires her to avoid problems, which leads to number 9. Tina, you got to do your job. Can't pay someone to do your job. I can assure you, as likely as the Dodgers probably lose Game 4 tonight in San Diego, that by now somebody has already offered her an opportunity to do her job. It kind of goes like this. Tina, you don't want to be scrubbing toilets and showers. Have you seen the toilets and showers, which, by the way, a lot of new prisoners are assigned to scrub toilets and shower? Have you seen these toilets, Tina? Look, for some mackerel or tuna or 6-pack of Diet Coke, maybe some granola, I'm going to do your job. What do you think? You got a deal? She has to do her job and contribute to this community of felons. If not, she's going to be looked at as lazy, entitled. You'd be surprised. Staff really doesn't care. I remember one staff member in federal prison once saying, "I don't care if you scrub the toilets and showers. I don't got to use them. Do whatever the hell you want." She needs to show that she can contribute, not have this view of being entitled and arrogant and lazy and better than other people, which is going to require her to do her job. Even if that means, Tina, and I know you're not watching this video because you're not going to use an iPhone in prison. I'm going to talk about that here soon. Even if that means you've got to scrub the filthy toilets and showers. Now, number 8, she has got to avoid communicating with staff any more than is necessary. See, part of the problem with people in prison who believe they're innocent or don't think they should be there, it's easier for them to identify with staff, law-abiding citizens. Like, once I realized I was in prison through my own actions, guess what? It was easier. I'm like, I did it, man. I want to do better. I want to emerge strong. It's my bad. But if you don't think you did anything wrong, you might communicate with staff. You associate with staff. But in so doing, like, prisoners are going to be like, why is she like talking to staff? Like, is she expecting favors? Does she think she's different? Is she targeting some of us out? Is she talking about so-and-so over there? Avoid staff. And there's also opportunities for people in prison to cooperate against other prisoners for myriad reasons. Maybe get out earlier, more visitation, more commissary, more phone time, better bunk, better job. Many reasons some prisoner is looking to cooperate and share that information with staff. And of course, when those people are caught, they're ostracized, there could be violence or fights, big problemos. So for that reason, she has got to avoid communicating with staff any more than necessary. Number 7, wow, did I see a lot of this in prison. You're walking to the chow hall, or you're walking around the track, and you're striking up a conversation with someone you don't really know, and then you begin to do the, oh no, don't do it, there you go, he did it. You begin to lament or complain about the length of your sentence. So even though 9 years seems like a very long time, I can assure you there are going to be women inside of that prison who didn't have resources, her education, the support, who got measurably longer sentences. So if she wants to avoid problemos on the inside, what she cannot do is complain about the length of her sentence. The problem is it tends to happen naturally. You think you're forming friendships. It kind of happens organically. You're getting to know someone. You're beginning to master this environment. And just like that, it slips. This is an injustice. They were out to get me. They were making an example out of me. 9 years is a travesty, and someone who's been in and out for 20 or 30 years hears that. That, people, is when prison goes bad for Tina Peters. We don't want that, as much as I know some of you do. She cannot complain about the length of her sentence. Now, number 6, I'm telling you, people, she's already been offered, or it's coming, the iPhones, the contraband, some drugs, the extra food. She has got to avoid the prison hustle at all costs. I did a lengthy media interview earlier this week, and they're like, so what advice do you have for people going to prison? I'm like, here's the primary goal. Don't make matters worse. And they're like, how could you be making matters worse? You're already going to prison. Here's the answer. You get caught with an iPhone, you're going to the hole. It could be a new charge. You lose what's called good time credits that you get federally. She's going to get them in the state system. So a big part of thriving in a federal or state prison is having this ability to resist temptation, to saying no, thank you. And for some people, maybe like Tina or others who are somewhat entitled, like me, I got to own it. When you're used to getting whatever you want, when you want it, and when you become addicted to these devices, some people will tell you, I miss the iPhone more than sex in prison. It can be very easy to succumb and take the iPhone, but the consequences for her would be so absolutely devastating. And I would advise her at all costs to avoid the prison hustle, which is going to require her to avoid forming friendships with people that also don't engage in the hustle. Now, I will say this isn't going to be a crazy long federal or state prison video here, but I do want to say there are things that people and that staff will turn away from. For example, they know some prisoners who have very little resources might clean your sheets or cook for you, things like that. They're aware of that because they know that prisoner might not have any money coming in. That's fundamentally different than using an iPhone or just engaging in hustle that can be really detrimental, which leads to number 5. And this could be hard for her. Tina, you cannot talk politics inside of that prison, right? So we can probably estimate that half of that prison, including staff, is sympathetic to her, while the other half are going to loathe her. And apparently in about 3.5 weeks or so, we have an election and someone's going to win, and half the people are going to be happy and half the people are going to be devastated. I would advise her to never, ever talk about politics in prison. I can tell you over the last 2 years, there have been more fights than I've ever heard of in federal prison when people get into politics. She needs to avoid that conversation at all costs because it can become dangerous. It can become violent. So she chooses to hang out in that television room all day and watch the election results. She can. There's risk. She shouldn't respond. She should sit there stoically and say nothing. Better yet, she should be in the prison library working on her release plan and introspecting and examining the decisions she made that led her to prison for 9 years and perhaps considering making amends. Dare I say, you're going to call me crazy, dare apologizing. Number 4, do not get involved in gambling. There are people who are like, I would never gamble. Are you crazy? The highest value in many of these federal and state prisons really isn't violence, it's boredom. And there are people who look to overcome their boredom in myriad ways. TV, some exercise, some write, some read, some engage in the hustle, get into trouble. But there are people who claim they would never gamble who end up gambling. And here's the consequence that follows: playing poker or spades or betting. You may actually owe money. And then when you owe money, guess what? The prisoner wants the money. There are some good hustlers in prison who will take you for all you're worth. And then they're going to say, you owe me money. You need to call someone and get it. And if they don't get that Venmo in about 3 days, we're going to have a problem. And the juice is continuing to run. So I don't want her to gamble. I don't want her to gamble and lose money. And I don't want it to make it harder on those that actually love and support her. And despite the thousands of comments that have come in, there are actually some people that still love and support her. Number 3, you cannot neglect your health. It is unfortunate that some people go to prison and they become just disheveled. They kind of give up hope. She has 9 years ahead of her. And even with good time and halfway house eligibility, she's going to serve a lengthy sentence in a difficult environment. And if she's not positive and if she's not productive, it can be very hard for her to even imagine the end. It just feels so long. So when that happens, and I saw this in prison with men serving just 5 years, they really begin to neglect their health. Plus, the food in prison isn't that healthy to begin with. You'll see guys eating ice cream for breakfast every single day because they'll shop in the commissary and there's no refrigerator. She cannot neglect her health, in part because the health care in prison, I know this is going to make some of you happy, it ain't good. It ain't great. So if she gets sick, if she gets hurt, she's not going to get the treatment she's used to getting right now. And I know that's a consequence of her choices, but I would encourage her to exercise, to be as healthy as possible, and to make decisions that ensure she gets out of there strong, with her mind strong. And you can't do that if she can't do that if she's just making really bad decisions and not prioritizing her health. Number 2, she cannot act like a martyr, which is what so many people do in prison. They walk around and say, yes, I'm enduring these toilets and showers. And yes, I'm also scrubbing these toilets and showers. And yes, I'm separated from my family for 9 years. And yes, I've got to endure this prison food. And yes, my health is suffering. But you know what? I'll take one for the team. It's all for the greater good. I'm doing a favor. If my 9-year sentence leads to the change that we need to see okay, you can't do it, Tina. It's going to lead to resentment. It's going to lead to problems. You know it ain't true. And it's going to ensure that your 9 years feels like 90 years. And it's a problem that so many people fall into. They act like they're taking one for the team. And I guess the number one and last thing that I'm going to share, there are people that could challenge her. I mean, I'm a contributor to Law and Crime Network, and I do a lot of media. And oftentimes you'll hear about some random dude in some jail suddenly all over the TV and news because he jumped or hurt, stabbed, threatened some famous prisoner. So I can assure you, based on her high-profile case, the way that she has responded poorly, without accepting responsibility, mocking the court, you can expect that some people who are bored, who don't care if their term in prison gets extended, if they go to the hole, if they get transferred, you can expect some prisoner is going to call her out in front of a large group of people. And how she responds is very important. I was never concerned about my prison reputation. Now, this didn't happen to me. I adjusted well. But the last thing she should be concerned about is her prison reputation and how people are going to respond to her. Instead, she should walk away. She should show humility, not argue, not even respond, even if people laugh and mock her. But I can assure you, there will be some prisoner at some time who will be looking to make an example out of her, only to see how she responds. And if she responds poorly, and if you get into a fight in prison, you both go to the hole. They don't care who starts it. You're in prison. They think you're criminals. They're not going to believe he said, she said, she said. They don't care. You're both going to get into trouble. So when she's called out, I would encourage her not to overreact. And that's how I will wrap up this video, covering 10 things Tina Peters absolutely cannot do in prison. Prison's hard. It's supposed to be hard. And I hope that some of you believe that she's capable of reform and doing better. And I hope she surprises all of us, because I've seen it before. I've seen the best come out of people through really difficult, brutal, and tough situations. And if I did it, maybe she can do it too. I count on her to succeed, as many negative comments and downvotes as that's going to receive. Thank you very much for joining the White Collar Advice community, where we believe anyone through hard work and not happy talk can become better than bad decisions from their past. Bye-bye.